Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. Want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, we get to speak with Lauren Leal, an experienced host and reporter with skill sets and knowledge in sales marketing. Lauren holds a bachelor's degree majoring in broadcast journalism and minoring in marketing from University of Houston. She also co-hosts the Houston Sports Show and reports on it from the field. Her responsibilities include creating and researching story ideas, interviewing athletes and sports organizations, form segment concepts, and working with the sales team being some of her expertise. She came from a background in broadcasting, acting, and cheering for Houston, Texas. Let's learn more about entertainment, sports, and broadcasting brought to us by Lauren Leal. Hey, thank you, Lauren, for joining us here on the Hacks and Hobbies podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, doing the best that I can through this time of COVID-19 shutdown and quarantine. But like I said, making the most of it and capitalizing on some opportunities that weren't presented before. So
Mhm.
doing good and staying healthy. How about you?
Same here, staying safe, staying healthy, and trying to keep my hair pull at the minimum, right? Because I was looking at somebody shared a photo, and there's two side by side. It's like this is what an introvert looks like living at home with the family, and they're trying to jump out of the window. And then here's what an introvert looks like that's single and it's just hanging out, just
That's
doing
funny.
yeah,
I
like it's
know.
normal. It's normal for them. It's fine. So it's been pretty exciting. I've got three children, so um, we've got a sort of a routine set up for my 2-year old. My two older ones are fine, but the 2-year old, she needs to go to sleep around this time. So then at least we get some break and we can do some productive work and stuff like that. But it's
Right.
been it's been pretty good. We're all going through this, and I was just thinking about, Throwback Thursdays would look really funny in the future from 2020. People walk around with masks, kids and cats and dogs with masks on. It's hilarious.
No doubt about that. That's something that I haven't thought about.
Yeah.
I've thought about moving forward and how sanitizing and everyone being secure with being clean is going to be
Hmm.
implemented into our everyday lives. But
Yeah.
whenever we do look back at this time, it's going to be all of those memes of whether it's girls' hair and their roots growing out, like you said, hair growing out, or
Hmm.
everyone wearing the mask. Today, I
Yes.
was out at the store because it was essential. I had to go get groceries,
Hmm.
and there was this woman with a complete hazmat, uh,
Oh,
like hat over her face. She had a mask on and a shield, but taking it to the max, and that's it's going to be some serious throwback
it
action.
will be. Yeah. What's really crazy is we're all going through this, and we'll all get out of it pretty good, hopefully. Unless as long as we stay home and do the precautions, and hopefully, it'll all be a pass. Just like 20 what was that 1918 when Spanish flu hit. I mean, it was crazy that people weren't staying home, and one of the examples they give was in New Orleans, where people took it seriously and they stayed home. It didn't affect as much. But in Pennsylvania, where they're like, no, no, we're going to go out and hang out in the parade, that huge number of fatalities because of the Spanish flu.
Mm,
So we just got to do our part and try to flatten that curve.
right. Maintain the numbers and then decrease the numbers.
Yes, exactly. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We met through Tony Bubb, and she introduced me, and I checked out, what you've been doing in the past, and it looks really amazing. The dedication and the tenacity you put into the sports and into, covering the sports. And then that takes a lot of knowledge about the sports because tell you the truth, I am not a sports person. And anytime somebody asks me, who's your favorite team, I'll say Denver Broncos, mainly because I love Denver and I lived there for 3.5 years. So even though I'm from California, Southern California, and what's funny is that while I was living in California, SoCal, they had no teams whatsoever, and apparently now they have two teams. I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Right, right. California has so many teams. They have like 4 teams per sport, like
Wow.
football, baseball. Yeah, California is loaded. They're huge like Texas is.
Yeah,
So,
they are. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, yourself and what pulled you into this specific area of covering the sports, covering athletics and, journalism in general. What's your story?
well, I'll take it back to college days, right? Where I got my degree in broadcast journalism and a minor in marketing. Well, I grew up in front of the camera acting, actually. It's funny that you say you're from California and
Yeah.
SoCal. So, everyone there is striving to be actor, a
Hmm.
director, professional dancer, something like this. And I actually had an agent in LA when I was growing up, when I was, itty bitty.
Yeah.
And so I did commercials, little independent films. I've got a couple of feature films under my belt, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I originally wanted to go out to LA and be a full time actress and do the waitressing thing on the side.
Hmm.
Well, my mom, was like, pump the brakes, Lauren, get a degree to fall back on in case anything happens.
Yes.
So the closest thing to acting was broadcast.
Mm.
And I grew up in a household of sports. Sports is on all day long, 24/7,
Yeah.
regardless, whatever season it is, soccer, football, basketball, baseball. Um, any type of sports material, like that's what we were always watching. So
Mm.
whenever I went to college and studied broadcast journalism, I took a liking to sports rather than news. And it all started off when I say that, and you too in this industry, it's about a
Mhm.
mindset,
Yes.
um, that you can do anything, you can do anything you put your mind to. And I've always, growing up, the actor type style, my mom had always implemented in me,
Yeah.
if why not it be you, if everyone's auditioning for this role, how, why not you too try, because they could
Mhm.
choose you. So I've that's kind of stuck with me in my mindset with everything that I've done in broadcast. And I bring it up whenever I was in college because there was I went to the University of Houston,
Mhm.
and I still do some work there with their sports program. But during their football games, they didn't have any type of interaction between the sport itself and the fans, but just besides the PA announcer announcing what happened with each
Yeah.
on the field. And I'm like, you know what? There's like a disconnect here. There needs to be some sort of like interaction, some activation, meaning a game being played in timeouts or something like this. So, right,
Yeah.
I reached out to the athletic department at the University of Houston and I said, hey, is there somebody in this type of role that can bring this aspect to the game that I think would be really good for, for students, for anyone that's attending these games? And they
Mhm.
said, no, we haven't, we haven't had that in years, but let's take a further look at it. Well, they called me into their offices. We sketched out a plan. And then I ended up turning into the host for University of Houston football.
Nice. Nice.
And, it was so cool that they took a chance on me. But that's the mindset that I've had moving forward, is that, you know, what's it going to hurt if you just try?
Yeah.
The worst that someone can say is no.
Exactly.
And so that's where it kind of all started for me. And then after that, I got an internship at a news station doing sports. I got an internship at ESPN Houston radio. And that's where I currently work right now too. By the way, Junaid, I have about like 10 different jobs.
I feel you. I feel you.
In this industry, it's like, you don't just do one thing. You do like 10 things that are all
Hmm.
kind of under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
And so right now, I do a sports talk show that's on the NBC affiliate for Houston.
Hmm.
Um, it's on KPRC Channel 2, and it's a fun segment where we don't just do highlights of what happened each game. We have in depth interviews with professional athletes, current and retired athletes, and we have panel discussions where there's a hot topic on, oh, are the Rockets going to make championship this year, who's
Yeah.
contenders for the Super Bowl, X, Y, and Z. So I do that on Sundays. We also have a 2 hour radio show Sunday mornings that's on our ESPN in Houston, ESPN
Okay.
97.5.
Nice.
And then I host at all of the professional stadiums here in Houston, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
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 a little
pretty
bit
amazing.
about myself, but
Yeah.
it's a lot.
No, that's really awesome because I see the little parallels, I'll see the little connections that you're making, right? And and I also see, the role model that you had in your life, your mom. She's like, I love where you're going, but how about we do it this way instead of just totally shutting you down? She was supportive. She guided you because we need those mentors in our life because without the mentors, we are almost as if we're driving without a GPS. Sure, we can find the signs on the road, and okay, we kind of know we're heading to Texas. You got to take 10. You gotta follow this along. But again, when somebody's there and telling you, what's going on, what's going to happen. Like when you have the GPS like Waze, it's like, hey, slow down. There's a cop reported ahead, or
Right.
there's somebody pulled over. When you have a mentor like that helps you along the way, like, hey, well, hey, this is awesome that we're going all the way, but we might want to stop and get some gas or get some snacks. So that's really awesome, and I love when your parents and your guide you in that way where you can immediately, not even immediately, but within a few years, you see the results, you see the actions, and then that again recharges and reignites your passion. It also tells your mind, hey, this is working. I'm not doing something that's gonna go, you get that feedback like, oh, I'm doing the right thing, kind of thing. And then anytime there is a change that you want to make, you can make that educated judgment. You can make that educated, what do you call that? Decision that, this is the way to go. So that's really awesome. I love it. Love it. Really good story.
Thank you. Yes, and it's true. When you're on your path and then something will strike your path down whenever it's not what you're supposed to do too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So or redirect you into some other way, and that's kind of how I feel we are living in the current moment of COVID-19 and
Yeah.
being quarantined. I feel, personally putting all of my efforts and energy into something, another project that I've always wanted to do but have never
Hmm.
had the time to,
Yeah.
or the energy and the effort because I have so many other things going on. So
Exactly. That's awesome. So tell me a little more about um, your mindset and your motivations on a daily basis. Because you did say, you're doing 10 different jobs right now. And a lot of us are doing, you know, 10 different jobs, even though, especially now that we're staying home, there's a lot
mhm.
more things we're doing that are in our to-do list because, you've got to get food ready because you can't really go out to eat. Somebody's not out, somebody else is not cooking. So you've got to do all of that. You got to do dishes, you got to do all of those things. So what are some of your motivations on a daily basis now that we're, indoors and we have, let's say, all the time in the world, but really it comes down to, your focus and where you're going to be living, on a daily basis. So what are some of those things, some of the motivations, and who are you in touch with on a daily basis?
So I am a faith-based person, and I'm religious. So I,
Hmm.
I dive deep into my faith each and every day. Sometimes it's starting my morning with a daily devotional, and honestly, I just try to keep as positive as possible,
Mm-hmm.
listening to all the positive songs, right? That either are religious or maybe they're not religious, but they have a
Yeah.
positive message. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I start my day, or I continue it through my day when I'm working on my laptop or desktop. And that's it's where I find my motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And someone who motivates me as well, I know I spoke about my mother
Mm-hmm.
being the driving force for my broadcast career, but my father has been one of my biggest supporters as well. And I kind of follow after him. He seeing him work. He's kind of a workaholic, but
Mm-hmm.
but he's so driven, and it
Yeah.
motivates me even more. And so whenever I see him or individuals like him
Mm-hmm.
that are doing everything in their power to be the best that they can be at whatever it is. I mean, it could be the best at going to get groceries, being the
Right.
best at organizing, being the best parent that you can be. Whenever you
Mm-hmm.
are the best that you can, like, that's what motivates me, and that what
Yeah.
pushes me to be stronger. I don't know about you, but whenever I see positivity out in the world, it definitely reflects on me. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I get the music going, when I don't have sticky notes, but I think I may start doing that during quarantine.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I used to have sticky notes, and since I've moved everything around, I don't have sticky notes anymore. And I was talking to one of my friends. So every day around 4 o'clock or 4:30, we have a coffee Zoom call. So she's like, "Here's my note. This is what I'm going to be doing." And the challenge was to get rejected 5 times.
Wait, why? You want to get rejected?
Yes. So here's what that means by getting rejected. There's a thing called rejection therapy. And what it does is it enables you to desensitize yourself from the pain of rejection,
Oh,
right? So just
okay.
like you saying, why not give it a try? What's the worst that gonna happen? They're just gonna say no. So
Hmm.
that's essentially rejection therapy. So this guy, he did a TED talk. He doesn't have his name listed here, but he's basically did 100 days of rejection therapy, where he had heard about 30 days of rejection, but he did 100 days, and he's like, all right, these are the rejections that you can try on your own. Like
Hmm.
number one was borrow $100 from a stranger.
Oh,
Right. So
wow.
he just went up to a security guard and was like, hey, can I borrow $100 even though we don't know each other?
Did he say yes or no?
I don't remember because so what he also did is for everything that he attempted, he recorded a video of it. Right. So now there's like 100
Ah.
videos of him getting rejected. And sometimes, you will even get something like, oh, you know what? I might not be a person who might buy your flowers, but I know this neighbor, they might be interested.
That's
Right.
true. Right.
So even though, I mean, because I think what's crazy is that we reject ourselves more than more than other people would be rejecting us.
And that probably is because we are so uh, hard on ourselves in general. We're our worst
Exactly.
critics.
Exactly, we are. Like one of the questions yesterday we were talking about is like, what's the one thing, like, how are you standing in your own way? Or how can you get out of your own way?
Hmm.
So I was like, that's really interesting because we think too much, like we have too many thoughts, and like you say, we're our worst critics. So even though we might have a good idea, and so we'll go around asking this idea with other people. Hey, what do you think? I want to do this. What do you think? I want to do this. And a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a stupid idea. Don't even bother." But other people will say, "Go for it. Try it." But then us as ourselves not being as what's that word? As forgiving. We're not as forgiving for ourselves. Like we don't have enough compassion for ourselves. We're like, you know what? I'm never not even gonna try. But then, yeah, yeah, it's really important to take the positive from the world and motivate ourselves. And really
For
good
sure.
point. Also look at your role models. Like your dad is helping you um, be a better person, and you look at him, to what's that word?
I like look up to as an
Look
idol
up to him
and
exactly.
right,
So that's really
right.
powerful. All my cameras are turning off because I, I
Oh,
forgot to. No, no, it's fine. I forgot to turn off the auto. Like this one is off. This one is off. So I was like, I'm just gonna use the webcam for now, which is fine since we're not doing video. Anyways, all right. So what was I gonna say? Awesome motivations, your journey. What are some of the plans? So for the future, I mean, you're doing 10 different jobs. You have some plans. I mean, we still have about no, we still got about 8 more months to go for 2020. Hopefully, we find a cure for the virus. Hopefully, we can get out back to a normalcy and, be able to go out and do the work. So what were some of your goals that you planned on, and how are you pivoting, and what's the new stuff to do?
well, that's where I find it really hard to not take, self-pity because
Mhm.
you can't do that in this
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
You can't say, "Oh, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me?" Because I did have a lot of things lined up.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I was about to start working with MLB, and
Oh,
of
wow.
course, that season got shut down.
Mhm.
I just signed a contract with the Houston Dynamo, which is the soccer team here in Houston
Mhm.
that I was their host and reporter for.
Yeah.
And we only got to do one game, and then the season shut down. And and then all of the opportunities within the things that I do, I can't do anymore. So for
Mhm.
the TV show that I do weekly on Sundays, we were supposed to go out to spring training,
Yeah.
interview all of the players and make
Yeah.
an episode out of that. So
Yeah.
there was just a lot, and I was supposed to move to a new location within the
Mhm.
city. Obviously, all of that got put on hold, and
Yeah.
it it just, like I said, it makes you take a step back and take a deep breath and focus your energy and your talent and what you
Yeah.
want to do in a different
Exactly.
direction.
Exactly.
So
So
now, I'm sorry,
no,
go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. I was just gonna introduce that, all of the Tonight Show hosts are doing these shows. They're still doing the shows. They're doing from their homes. They have
Right.
the production team, giving them material to talk about, and they're lining up the interviews. They're still doing all of that. So I was thinking, what if you did that? I'm sure these athletes are not going to stop training. I'm sure they're still training at their homes because
Hmm.
they want to be ready for next season or next year or whatever. Because if you don't train, you're gonna, lose that momentum that you've built. So what if that was something that you guys could also work on?
And I'm glad you bring that up because currently we do for the show that we still do.
Mhm.
Me and my co-host, we are just obviously we're not together. He's in his home, I'm in my home,
Yeah.
and we're talking through Zoom like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're doing these virtual Skype type interviews through Zoom. It was really cool a couple weeks ago, whenever the Olympics got postponed to next
Hmm.
year. I was speaking with a platform diver, Laura Wilkinson. She was actually the gold medalist in the year 2000,
Yeah.
and she decided to make a huge comeback for Tokyo 2020, and
Hmm.
she is currently 42 years old, turning
Wow.
43. So this was a big deal. She's been training hardcore this past year because she wanted one more go round at it,
Hmm.
and we had her on the show talking about how is she going to continue to train. In fact, she is. And what it's been like for her this past year, and then what to look to forward to now. So we've been having those type of virtual Zoom interviews, if you will,
Hmm.
for our show. So
Yeah.
so
That's
there's that.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Mhm.
And before I cut you off, what were you gonna say that you're planning on like pivoting to?
Well, something I've always wanted to do, kind of
Mhm.
like you, Junaid, is
Yeah.
have my own talk type of vlog slash
Hmm.
podcast. It's
Yeah.
still in the very beginning stages,
Yeah.
but this is something that I've always wanted to do, and I
Hmm.
never was able to because
Yeah.
I'm at this sporting event, I'm at this radio show, I'm at,
Exactly.
a million other places. So now I'm fine tuning and getting all my ideas together and jotting them
Nice.
all down, and that's what I've been putting my focus and energy into. Besides
That's right.
working out and walking, the dogs every other day.
Absolutely. No, you're right. It takes a lot of time, and the way I got my podcast started was I was like, hey, I'm spending 2 hours commuting to and forth from work. I can use this time to, record the podcast. And it was funny, I ran into the app Anchor just because I was doing some research for a friend of mine who wanted to start his podcast. And then I went to this app and I was like, what? You can now record a podcast from your phone? Shut up. Shut the door.
Shut the
And
door, right?
right. So I started using the app, and I used the phone and my headset, just like the one you're wearing, in my car, recorded the first episode while driving
That's
home.
awesome.
Yeah. And the first season is essentially just me talking to myself about my beekeeping, about video production, and all my other hobbies, all
Hmm.
in the car, all, on the phone or the iPad. And then later on, then editing it and sending it up to the clouds. So I was like, this is so easy. Like, why didn't I think about this? And turned out it was just like the app had just came out probably 6 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, and see, that's the thing too. Whenever you want to start a new project, whatever it is, you just have to do it. Like there
Yes.
can always be something better, like you said, like sound quality or
Yep.
visuals, or if you're gardening, you can always have more tools or whatnot, but
Exactly.
you just have to start.
Hmm.
And that's where that's kind of where I'm at right now too.
Nice. That's awesome. And like you said, you just got to start. And I've been taking way too long to starting my own YouTube channel. And I'm
Mm,
like, oh, I got to have this tool. I got to have that tool. And so I have that since I'm a tech enthusiast. So that's my other problem because I always want perfection.
yes.
And we're all that way. But with the podcast, I was like, you know what? There's so much to do. And this is the easiest way to get started. Let me just go ahead and do it. And over time, like it's been 2 years. So over time, I've added more processes to it. I've added people to help me. I've added different things to enhance the podcast. So that's always going to happen. It's always going to be a changing target.
Right. And I feel like that's life in general, and then
Yeah,
especially in this industry, everything evolves. So yeah, it's just a revolving door when it comes to starting any
yeah,
type of business, any type of production. So
exactly.
very cool.
That's really cool. Well, I'm excited to, check your podcast out, and, let me know when you hit it, when you launch it, because, uh, I'd love to help you and figure out some of the tips, in launching the podcast, figuring out and telling people, hey, this is my launch date for the podcast. And, you want to get as many people subscribed to the podcast. So when it does launch, you get to claim those spots, in the iTunes, uh, you know, newsworthy podcast episode, new and upcoming ones.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
I would definitely love to speak with you, get your advice on some different things since you've been doing this for a while,
Hmm.
and especially on YouTube as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. So really awesome, excited. Um, I say awesome a lot. Apparently, I was told about that. It's
It's
like
funny when we
because
start
it's awesome.
talking to ourselves or talking to other people, it's like, whoa, I don't realize I say that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yikes, spikes, calm it down,
Mhm.
Lauren.
All right. This been really awesome. So tell us, I have so at this point I have some questions that I
Mhm.
ask all my guests. what is one hobby that you wish you got into?
You know what? I was thinking really hard on this question, and I still am because it can go a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
So I wish I would have learned an instrument like
Mm.
piano specifically, because I think that would be so much fun to challenge my brain in that way. I always like
Yeah.
learning new things, which I could pick it up now.
Hmm.
It's just easier when you're younger and you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Uh, but that, and then also learning different languages.
Mm.
So I learned Spanish, through high school and college. And then I
Yeah.
tried to learn conversational, but it's hard to keep up with when you don't use it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then I tried to learn French and I did the same thing. It's like, okay, I got the Je m'appelle Lauren and I got the
Hmm.
basics. But then if you don't speak it,
If you don't speak it, exactly.
it all just goes away. So
Yeah.
that's something that I wish like I could have kept up and keep doing.
What's really interesting is I'm sure you've heard of the app Duolingo, where you can learn
Yes.
multiple different languages. So I did the same thing with Spanish, and I was like, oh, I want to learn some German, or like I picked different languages and I was just trying them out. But then I also learned about another app that enables you to have conversations in different languages with other people.
Oh,
I was like,
so it
hey,
like brings it to life.
exactly. And I can't remember the name of that application. I'm sure if you do a little search, we could find what that app is so you can have
I
actual
would love to.
conversations in their native tongue. And it's I guess it's called immersion therapy or something, where you immerse yourself in the language that there's no other way but to figure out what they're talking about.
I've been in those situations where I've been to Mexico and I get in a cab and the driver doesn't know any English whatsoever. And
Hmm.
I'm just like, oh, tiempo, like time, and
Yeah,
like naming different things.
exactly.
So it like make sure you pick me up at the right place, the right
Hmm.
time, and everything like that. So that's
Yeah,
that's immersion therapy in the making.
yeah, exactly. All right, next one. So you want to be able to play some piano. That's a really cool hobby, and languages is again amazing because again you're powering your mind to think in different ways because you have the different, we call it the different hemispheres of your brain, the right brain, left brain that think differently.
Yeah, and like when the way that you work your fingers, yeah, triggers other parts of your lobe, like you said.
Mm,
So that's something that I would like to challenge, or wish I would have
wow.
picked up.
Well, that's a really interesting point that you mentioned because, and that totally makes sense because they did brain scans of taxi drivers in London, and they this the the part of your brain that stores information about navigation was much larger on people who had been, driving or being a taxi drivers for 10 years versus those that just became taxi drivers.
Oh, that makes
Because
sense.
what happens is every week, or is it every day? Every day we have 1,700 new brain cells that then go into the areas of what you're learning about.
I didn't know that.
Yes, because that's how our brain grows, and that's how we, get smarter over and over when we learn about something. So
Okay,
we have new cells, and then we have dying cells. So the dying cells, oh, you're not thinking about that anymore. And if you've seen the movie Inside Out,
I have not.
Pixar's, you have to check it out because it's an accurate depiction of how our mind works and how our memories work. And in it, it shows, oh, we don't need that memory anymore. So they throw it in the memory, in the memory dump.
Is
Because
it the one with all the emojis?
no, no, no. This one is about there's five. So it's inside the brain. It's a Pixar movie. It's inside the brain of this girl, and she's got joy, sadness, disgust, and fear and anger. So these
Mm.
are the five different emotions that this young girl has, and you were basically going through the through her life, and how what she's feeling and how what's her main feeling, and then over time she develops, and it's really great. um it's a really great movie and very accurate from the perspective of mental health and mental um psychology. And like a lot of people that are psychologists, they talked about it, and they went and saw a movie and like, wow, this is very accurate, it's really good.
That sounds like it. I would love to dive into that and watch it.
Yeah, and we have the time to go check it out.
Yeah, I have the time.
Yes. All right. So talking about brain and memories and childhood and how our brain works. What is something that you wanted to be when you were a child?
Hmm. You know what? So I know exactly what I wanted to be.
Mm.
I wanted to um, be an Olympic gymnast
Ooh,
and win a gold medal. So
nice.
yeah, I grew up doing gymnastics. I did it for 9 years, and
Wow. That's amazing.
thank you. It's no walk in the park. I'll say that.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, and no, I had always dreamed that, and of course, channeled as I got older, channeled it into
Hmm.
um, different avenues, but
Yeah.
gymnastics.
But you're still in that vein of sports and athletics and the body.
Yes.
Nice. All right. So we talked about, your hobby, your favorite hobby, what you want to be as a child. Combining those two things, and then, we talked about the movie. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Okay. Movie or TV show? That's a
And I know
hard
it's going to be a hard question for you because you're a sports fan.
one. Honestly, I love anything that makes you feel, which is a lot of the sports movies.
Hmm.
But
I
I
love
do
those
have
sports movies.
yes, I remember the Titans, and
Oh,
I mean, come
one of
on
the
now.
best. One of the best.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I have a it's hard to narrow that down. I think I kind of have a favorite book.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Can go to a book.
And well, now it's like now I'm like thinking about my books and I'm like going between two. There's like one about a biography on
Hmm.
Rashad Jennings, who was a running back in the NFL.
Hmm.
Who he just overcame everything. He had a low
Wow.
GPA. He wasn't supposed to be in this position. He was overweight, and he like overcame everything. And he was just like basically the backup person waiting for their shot. And he
Wow.
finally got his shot. So there's that book. But then there's also a nonfiction book or I'm sorry, a fictional book
Fictional
that
book.
is off the grid of sports, and it's
Hmm.
called, I'm sure you've heard of it, it's or might have heard of it, it's been in the top like 10 for years. It's called
Hmm.
Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh no, I have not heard of that.
Well, I love it because it's written beautifully, and it really makes you feel. And I won't go into the description of the book
Sure.
because you haven't read it, just in case you ever do. But
Yeah.
it's just it's very well written, and you can relate to the main character in some sort of fashion
Oh,
and
nice.
feel basically.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love me some books too, and I've tried to read a lot, but I end up just listening to the audiobooks. I think that way I'm able to do multitask, I guess. But
Mm,
I'm gonna have to
right.
check out that book, about athletic, or the fictional one. What was the name of it?
Where the Crawdads Sing.
Where the crawdad scene.
Yes,
Okay,
it's yeah, like I said, I could go into the
sure.
description, but not sure if you would want to hear that.
Well, let's jump on to the next question.
Okay.
We can come back to that. All right. So this next question talks about what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it? Now you can replace the movie with a book or a TV show, but you get to play a character in it. And like you said, you started acting, and I'm sure there were some parallels. So what would you pick?
Oh, the movie to pick, the movie to play a part in. Oh my goodness, there's so many that would be incredible to jump inside that character.
Yeah.
Because for me, growing up in the industry, and I mean, you being around, not maybe not like movies, but
Hmm.
but interviewing and being around lights and audio and all this stuff, you kind of pick apart everything in a movie, or at least
Yes.
I do.
Hmm.
And I always say, oh my gosh, it'd be so much fun to play her role or to, to do that monologue or whatnot.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the very dramatic, eerie scenes would be
Hmm.
fun because they'd be such a challenge because it's so
Yeah.
far away from your reality.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of the show Bates Motel?
I have, yes.
Did you watch
I have
the
not seen
seasons?
it. No, I have not seen it.
It is the eeriest show because it's based off the Alfred Hitchcock film Psycho, the
Oh, okay.
classic. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
this series is made off of that, and they're at a hotel. And I would love to dive into one of the characters on there because she has these dramatic scenes where she's battling with her
yeah.
emotions, her
Hmm.
son, how to keep the hotel afloat, but then
Yeah.
also all of the weird things that are happening within the show as well.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
That probably was not the answer you
No, that's
you
pretty
were
good because it all came, so the where this question came from is a book called Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. And in the book, it's in the future, everybody's in VR, and that's the only way they communicate, and they go to school in VR
huh,
because gas prices are tremendously high, nobody can drive, and people are living in these stacks, which are basically motorhomes or stack on top of each other. So this is
huh.
where you live. And to go to school, everybody puts on the VR goggle and they enter this app called the Oasis. And you are now going to school and going to college, which is almost exactly what we are doing right now. Like to go to school, my kids are logging onto Zoom,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Right, to do anything at all. We're watching, engrossed in these devices. And somebody was saying, this is probably going to accelerate VR, virtual reality, because a friend of mine who was looking to buying VR gear for the past 3 months, he decided to pull the plug now, or decide to make pull the trigger now, and he's like, it's sold out everywhere. Like, what did you expect?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome for your friend, but that's so true. I did not think about that aspect where we really are living in a virtual world right now. And
Hmm.
virtual reality glasses, I mean, come on. What
Yeah,
what a perfect time for
it's the
that.
perfect time for that. So that's where the question comes from, because in it, he has to play Matthew Broderick's character from War Games in order to solve this riddle.
Hmm.
It's a really cool. And then they did something very similar in the movie where instead of using War Games as the movie, they used what movie did they use? They used Psycho, and you're
Oh,
walking down the hallway, and so it was really interesting. Uh, those two parallel lines. All right, next question: who is your favorite superhero?
mm. Okay. So, is it bad to say this? I don't really watch superhero films,
Hmm.
but if you're doing good, you're a good guy in my book. I guess I'd have to say Spider-Man
Perfect answer. Spider-Man is a good guy. He's one of the best. I mean, he's been around for so long. I mean,
for so long. That's
so
true.
long, and he's truly a everybody's hero.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that is like one movie that I actually did watch because, like
Hmm.
I said, I never really watched the Marvels or
Sure.
what's the other edition? It's like
DC,
Marvel,
DC
DC.
Comics. Hmm.
Okay, it's either like one or the two, and I didn't.
Yeah,
I know everyone, to each their own. I just wasn't one of those people that watched.
exactly.
But like Spider-Man was one that I did enjoy. The older ones, when they first started making them into movies with, uh, what's that main actor, Toby
Toby
Maguire.
Maguire. Yep.
I love him as an actor in
Oh,
general.
me too. Those are my favorite Spider-Man movies.
So you like Spider-Man? Okay, good.
I like I am a huge superhero. What's that word? Geek
Buff
around it,
or
buff
geek?
or yeah, buff a geek. I've watched all of the DC, seen all of the Marvels, I've seen all of the Star Wars. So I am very
Okay.
deep into that world because I don't watch sports, and that's why I mentioned.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. You gotta have enough space to have either one of those in
Exactly.
your brain.
Exactly. Either you could have players in your head, or you can have superheroes.
Right.
All
Right.
right. Last question: if you
What you
were
got?
a board game,
Oh.
what would it be?
Oh goodness. A board game. So like what okay, this isn't my choice, but like say what if you choose Monopoly? Does that mean you're like
That
one
is a
of
board
the
game. That means you are Monopoly.
I make money? Is that what
It makes money, or um you create
I have one.
opportunities.
I have one.
Yeah.
Do movies count?
Well, it's not a board game, but if they made
Because
a movie out of a board game, but then yeah.
Jumanji.
Oh, that's the best board game ever.
Right? You can
Yes.
jump into it. You don't want to die,
You don't want to die.
but it'd be
Exactly.
so cool to see all those
I
animals.
know.
And so I was like, wait, how about this?
Yeah. No, that's
Does that
perfect.
count?
Of
Or
course. It started as a board game, it became a video game, and now, and apparently I don't know if you've seen the latest movie.
I haven't seen number two. I've just seen the
Okay.
first
Okay. So the first one with The Rock,
one.
because
Right.
that's
Yes.
technically that's the second movie. Um because the first one was in the 80s or the 90s.
Yes.
Yes, with Robin Williams.
That was a great one.
We just watched the third one or the second one, and it took us 4 tries because we were so tired at the end of the day.
It wasn't that entertaining to
It was
you?
very entertaining, but we were really tired. I mean, we have 3 kids and we work
Right.
days, right? Working
Jack
from
Black
home.
cracks me up in those
But
films.
Jack Black is so amazing. Jack Black, Kevin Hart, I mean, all of those characters, they are truly, amazing, just amazing. Their tenacity, their heart that they put into it, it's just beautiful.
I would love to sit down and interview them.
Yeah,
You know how fun that would be?
it'd be so much fun. And you could have picked, I mean, if I had the question reversed, asking the board game first and then asking you which movie character you want to play with, you
Oh.
could have been, what's her name? The the ninja fighter. Karen Gillan's character, right? Or
Yes.
you could have been Jack Black, me who knows.
Oh gosh. Well, yeah, I mean, he was the girl. He took on
Yeah. So yeah, that would have been pretty cool. Well, Lauren, this was really awesome talking with you. Where can my audience find you and get connected with you?
It was so much fun. Thank you for having me on,
Yeah,
Janine.
you're welcome.
It was a blast. But you can follow me on my handles on social media. So I have a Facebook page, and that is Lauren Leal.
Okay.
When you do Facebook/Lauren
Mm-hmm.
Leal, and then my Twitter handle is Lauren Leal TV, and
Perfect.
my Instagram is Lauren Leal. So and it has a little pink heart by it, and you can
Awesome.
catch my
Yeah. So
videos, my hot takes on sports and whatever else I'm up to, you will
fantastic.
find between those three channels.
Awesome. So what I'll make sure to do is add these links to the podcast show notes so people can get to and be able to connect to with you um in whichever medium they are comfortable with. What's funny is I'm on Facebook more than Twitter and Instagram. And a lot of my family that I talk to, they're like, "Oh, I don't check Facebook or on Instagram more."
Really?
So it's different for different people and different generations, I guess. But I'm all social media because I make different connections based on the different network I'm on, and it's really fun.
that's what's cool about having all the different type of platforms, because they offer you to do different things. I feel like Facebook is all in one, where you have the
Yes.
status, you can do photos, you can do videos, and you can do your feelings, which sometimes goes a little too far.
Yeah.
But you have Twitter, and it's just like, a thought or two a day,
Hmm.
or it's where you get your news or your sports information.
Yeah.
And then you have Instagram, where it's like pictures of yourself or artsy pictures,
Hmm.
um, more of like a collabed album
Yeah.
of you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. We will talk to you soon in the next
Thank you.
one.
Thank you so much. Loved coming on. I had a really great time.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode on Hacks and Hobbies. We absolutely appreciate your contribution. You can find additional notes on hacksandhobbies.com. Please share the podcast with your friends and tell them what you learned about our guest today.